Welcome to the Infrastructure Podcast, this new series of conversations with some of the key leaders and influencers from across the vast UK infrastructure sector. My name is Anthony Oliver, and in today's podcast we're going to talk about the challenge of delivery beyond time and budget, and specifically the role of the trusted advisor. Now, not so long ago, when it came to delivery, project managers were wedded to the classic iron triangle of cost, time and scope, from which of course you could achieve one, two, but certainly not all three. Today's modern clients, they want more. Meeting or beating the cost, budget and time schedule is a given, and their new demand and the challenge for those working for them is for greater economic and social return from their investment. So to understand and discuss this issue and how it might be achieved, my guest today is Patricia Moore, Managing Director for the UK at global consultancy Turner Townsend. Patricia, welcome to the Infrastructure Podcast.
Thank you, Anthony. It's a pleasure.
Okay, well, let's kick off by finding out a little bit more about the modern client. Patricia, you've spent the last 24 years at Turner Townsend working closely with a range of different public and private sector clients. Am I right? Are they more demanding today?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are many of the thematics that we've seen in the industry for a long time are still there. You know, they might be called different things these days, where in the past we called them value for money. Today we're focused more around productivity and efficiency. I think what we see is that clients are definitely getting thinner in terms of their organisations and the capability that they hold. But the expectation in terms of their performance and what they're asked to deliver, I think, is getting, bigger. The programmes are bigger scale, more complex, harder therefore to navigate. And you're right, I think there is, also the backdrop of the changing paradigm of the new, the new challenges around carbon, sustainability, delivering in a digital way, and also in terms of outcomes, about having a big social value contribution in terms of, the programmes that they deliver. So lots of things are changing actually, but, I think that's what keeps things interesting and, keeps challenging all of us.
I mean, are there some specific challenges that you face today that perhaps a decade ago weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big new currency, rather than just cost these days, is about carbon. And that's about as much as bringing the economic equation to carbon, as well as the solution of how do you get, the carbon transformation and get every business transform into being a net zero business. So I think that's opened up a whole new set of challenges, for clients in their core businesses as much as in the capital investment programs that they're making. I think definitely also, being able to trade and run programs in a fully digital environment, so that we can really get the best of teams to collaborate. I think those are all new big fresh challenges that the industry is still working through. But it's definitely, a changing paradigm that we can see is increasing. And then I think the other big area, is that we're all being measured, particularly in the public sector, around the social value and the contributions that we're making. Now, I think infrastructure, is great from a perspective of looking at that, because that's effectively what infrastructure schemes are trying to do, is liberate a community or, connect communities or, put new social infrastructure into communities. So I think the baseline projects of what we do in infrastructure are very laudable, actually, and they talk very well to that social value equation.
Of course, for most clients, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but most clients managing assets, I imagine, is not their core business. And for most of your clients, they're one-off distracting events which take longer than expected and cost more usually. I mean, sure, there's something that most of your clients would rather not be doing. So as a business like Turner Townsend, I mean, how do you help them in that case?
Yeah, I mean, I think we sort of see two types of clients in the infrastructure market in particular. You do get the more mature clients, the asset managers, if they're the regulated asset managers, if you like, whether that's the water sector or the aviation sector, whatever. And they tend to be more educated clients. They hold a level of capability and capacity. But even those clients, when you start to put, for instance, Heathrow third runway into the equation of them running a big, operation, it does challenge them in terms of capacity. So even, and then you have this sort of pop-up clients, the clients that get formed to deliver a high-speed 2 or a Crossrail or whatever, where the organisation needs to be conceived. So our whole approach really is to help the client, and we've always been very careful, I guess, to not get involved in design and not get involved in construction, but we bring that management expertise to help clients navigate that landscape, to rapidly build capability, to understand and set their stall out actually about what the program needs to achieve, to set it up for success, and to help the client perhaps over the life cycle as well, build capability and become, the capable client that they need to be to deliver successful outcomes in the program.
Which is where I come to this idea, I suppose, of the trusted advisor. The phrase on your website is making a difference. What is this so-called trusted advisor that I hear so much referenced?
Well, I think if you put it in the perspective of what we were talking about earlier about how clients' businesses have changed, I think of old you might have had a very highly capable client organisation, a big owners team, and we would have been perhaps a service provider to that owners team relationship. So we were providing perhaps commercial management services, project management services. What we're seeing now is, as the clients have got thinner and as the demand profiles got bigger, then actually we are filling more of the space into the client team, the owners team, and we're building that capability into the client and really thinking about strategic solutions for clients, much more around integrated solutions where we bring a lot of our services together, where we help the client set up the program for success in the early days. And then we really drive it towards outcomes. And we want to do more and more of that as we go forward, where we are, really driving towards integrated solutions and being rewarded on the outcomes that we deliver rather than for selling services or selling people.
And the phrase you use a lot also is working smarter. How does that bring clarity to your clients' aspirations?
Well, we all have to work smarter because, there's a big capacity issue in our industry. At the same time as the demand cycle is just becoming, stronger and stronger. And that's on the back, I think, of successive governments understanding the value of infrastructure investment, what it means to the economy. And so what we're seeing is this continued demand. Gone are the days of the big boom and bust that we used to get in construction, which is brilliant. But what we haven't done successfully enough is really build the skills and the capacity that we need as we go forward. So really, we bring a programmatic approach. That's what we effectively do with clients. As we say, we stand back, we assess the problem, we assess what they're trying to achieve, and then we design the program accordingly. And we bring that programmatic discipline to solving those challenges.
So do these clients, do they still need to be intelligent, or do you provide that intelligence for them?
Well, I think it depends. One of the things that we do very quickly with clients is understand what type of client they want to be. So if you think of, an Olympics client that was a very thin client and they went for big delivery partners and they saw their role as, setting out the requirements and assuring against that, right down to a high-speed 2 that's built a whole raft of capability. There is no one size fits all. So you've got to work with the organisation to see what is the right solution. And then it's about us bringing, helping them determine that approach, but then also tailoring our services and our solutions alongside that. So that can be, bringing intelligence and insight, benchmarking what owners teams look like, right through to what are the benchmarking performance standards that we would expect for the program, right through to actually then alternatively becoming their delivery partner and building big teams that bring that capability. So it's either strategy or it's deep solutions.
Because I'm always, I'm intrigued as to how you describe a business like Turner Townsend. Who do you compete with? Is it the traditional engineering consultants? Is it the management consultants like McKinsey or EY, or is it the tech giants such as Google or Microsoft who are now entering the market? Where do you place yourself in that?
Well, I think we compete with all of them at some point, at some level, really. It depends really on the sector and it depends on the market. We are seeing a difference, I think, in appetite with the multidisciplinary consultancies. I think they were becoming quite expansive years ago. I think they're retracting more to their core these days. And they're divesting of certain markets.
So going back to the design aspect of what they used to do, yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing more of that. And also the big four were moving more and more into our space, I think, with some of the challenges that they've encountered, through the conflicts in their audit businesses.
And is that a good thing?
Well, it just is the thing, isn't it? So, I mean, I think it depends on, which sectors you look at. There's definitely areas where we really are up against the strategy houses and the big four. And there are other places where we're up against the multi-Ds, and there are other places. Well, I mean, we work very comprehensively across the tech sector. So the tech giants are really our biggest clients globally. Google's our biggest client across the world. We do a lot of work for all of them, really. So,
So rather than competing with them?
Yeah, we're a very diverse business. I think we set out to build a diverse business model because we knew that would give us a lot of resilience. But we were very measured in the sense that we didn't want to do design. We didn't want to get involved in construction. We absolutely want to be shoulder to shoulder with our clients to really, be the partner of choice for our clients. Okay. And that's a space that I think that we've become quite unique in.
And you're growing rapidly. I mean, how are you attracting the best staff and retaining the best staff? Because the kind of growth rates that you've been going through, that requires a lot of new talent coming in.
Yeah, they do, and I think we're also doing all of that in very changing times, Anthony. I think in our generation, people were quite happy to stay with an employer and be quite loyal to employers. Now, actually, they see change as good, and they absolutely want to move through different organisations. We've always invested heavily in our early careers cohort. And, we're very proud of that. I think we've got a very industry leading offer really for grads and apprentices. But I think the other big thing that we've done quite differently over the last few years, we spent 2.5, 3 years discovering our purpose and really articulating what that means for us as a consultancy and where we fit therefore in our industry. We know that our industry is a fantastic industry, but yet it has a really bad reputation. And then when you look at it in terms of productivity and hard measures from a government perspective, we need to do a whole lot better. And that's why the government set this industry agenda to transform construction. So, we've allied our purpose to that really, where, we want to transform construction for a green, inclusive and productive world. And that really talks to that wider purpose that is, which is really desired, I think, from our employees these days. Our people absolutely want to get on a journey that is more purposeful than just coming to work and doing a job every day. Even as great as building an infrastructure scheme is, they want to see that wider contribution.
Okay, and one of the things which presumably is behind that is, I mean, as a business, you've got an ambition, I believe, to be net zero by 2030. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of work internally and with CBRE to really look at how do we hone that offer for the market, as well as at the same time get ourselves, shaped up and right for that. So, that's a really big, exciting area actually, where we are working with many clients. But CBRE are a great example of, they're the biggest real estate company in the world, and we're helping them determine their program for, net zero. And we're working through that in a systematic way, but we're working across a lot of both our public and private sector clients on that. And we're really looking at forming, as most other companies are very interested in this area as well. But I think we are very keen that we bring a different approach, and we're not getting into technical solutions. We are much more about how do you assemble the kit of parts to get you to a net zero solution. And that's quite a different offer that clients are telling us that they're seeing in the marketplace.
Okay. Let's talk a bit more about you, Patricia, because, when we talk about retaining staff, I mean, you've been at TNT, since 1999, when you started as a commercial manager in real estate. And yet since then, you've had a number of roles, running the rail business, running the infrastructure sector, and now, of course, the whole of the UK business. I mean, how would you describe the skills that have kept you at Turner Townsend?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with, and I always say this to, lots of our younger people come and sort of say, how do you get on in the business? How do you, stay relevant, or how do you, progress up the ranks of the organisation? And I think it starts with having a great technical skill set when you're in professional services. So, I spent the first part of my career really honing that technical capability in commercial management and extra qualifications that I did in dispute resolution as well. Then I moved more into program management, and I sort of assumed a project controls capability that helped me then translate really what I did across a wider part of our business. So then as I started to move up, I was better equipped to be able to take, for instance, the infrastructure leadership role, because I knew more of the component parts of the service offer. As you then translate up through the business, I think it becomes much more about people skills and then business acumen, and you sort of grow those skills as you become a business leader. And that's what's been great, I think, about my career, is that I've continued to learn and grow and develop. And obviously that's in the backdrop of, a very changing world about what's acceptable and what's expected of business as well. So, I'm a great believer in the growth mindset. Carol Dweck, is a Stanford University psychologist who basically put out a whole theory and thinking around the growth mindset, and I use that as a great guide to challenge myself, challenge my fixed mindset, keep myself in a growth mindset, and keep learning. And I think those are the attributes, I think, that enable you to continue to grow and learn and develop.
Okay, I mean, clearly you're passionate about the sector, and clearly also you need to be passionate about the people side of your business, because the people are your assets. I mean, what are the most difficult bits? What are the most rewarding parts?
I think the most rewarding bit is that every day is really different. The job is really varied, and our business is very diverse, as I said. So there's lots of different challenges, and no 2 days are the same. And that's brilliant. I think it's really stimulating. The more challenging things are, it's trying to get a handle on the market these days. It's trying to forecast what is going to come, because if you look at all the macroeconomic factors, we should be in deep recession, and we should be in crisis in the business, but we aren't right now, because the things that used to be quite easy to translate are becoming increasingly complex and difficult. So I think those are the more challenging things about how do you keep the right balance in the business between optimism and investment and positivity, but also, how do you control the costs and, keep people in full employment?
Yeah.
It's like any job, you have the rough and the smooth. There's some amazing parts, and then there's some real challenges, but working together, and having the right, and that's why we think our purpose journey is so helpful, really, because it does create that North Star to really challenge your thinking and stop you from taking real short-term decisions.
Yeah. Well, creating a balance, I suppose, between your working life and your downtime is also really important. I know you like your tennis. Is that what you're still doing to take your mind off work? You're still playing a lot of tennis, are you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I have my 3 children as well, so they take up a fair bit of time. My 3 boys, but yeah, I'm a real tennis nut. Yeah, I love playing tennis, and I try and get as much playing in as I possibly can, mainly at the weekends, but. And I love watching it. I love going to the tournaments and stuff as well. So yeah.
Very good.
Although I'm very sad that Roger's retired. I'm very sad about that.
Well, exactly. Well, you've been modelling your backhand topspin down the line. No, I mean, the career has been through a lot of ups and downs, and as you say, it's difficult to get a handle on what's happening. What keeps you interested and excited about this sector?
Well, it just makes a massive contribution to people's lives, doesn't it? Whether we're building the schools that people learn in, our kids learn in, or, the hospitals that we get better in, or the railways that connect our communities, everything right down to building a water treatment plant that gives people clean water. Infrastructure has such a massive higher level purpose, doesn't it? It makes such a huge contribution to people's lives. I think at the same time, having that clarity of purpose is amazing, but we know that there's a massive performance agenda that we need to improve within the industry. And so that is something that, having that challenge as well is something that keeps you illuminated. And then I think finally it's also about, as you get to my stage in my career where I've done, over 30 years in the industry, you're increasingly thinking about, what's the point of view and what's your personal purpose and how you're making a contribution. And a lot of that for me is the people agenda and how I'm bringing people through the industry and through our organisation and creating, the talent for the future to continue the journey with the industry performance agenda. Is it a
fun place to work there?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think we have great fun. Yeah, we've always had a big fun culture. But even the what's called fun is a diversely changing model these days, Anthony. You know, I think they've gone are the days where it was just all about going to the pub. You know, I think now people are asking to do more diverse things and have fun in more diverse ways. And that's really great. You know, I do think the more fun that you have, the more enduring the team, you know, and the more impactful the team actually. You know, we're all human beings, aren't we?
Yeah. No, it's amazing how many people I speak to do emphasise this point that people now want to have, it's a serious business infrastructure, but people also want to work in teams that are fun. And is that what drives you? I mean, is that what drives you, has kept you at Turner Townsend and in the market?
There's lots of things that have kept me at Turner Townsend. I certainly felt when I joined the business that I was home and that I would probably never leave. And I think, you know, I haven't really, you know, varied from that.
Well, sum it up for me. You know, how do you then describe the role of this trusted advisor? What does it really look like to you?
Well, I think first of all, it is a relationship with the client. You know, we want to get alongside and have a serial relationship with clients where we understand actually how we drive performance and improvement in their business models. And we work strategically with them to solution that. And we are, you know, absolutely driving those solutions and driving the performance of those solutions to get them to the outcomes. And ultimately that we get rewarded on delivering those outcomes. I think for me, that's what the trusted advisor journey really is all about. It's about partnering with clients to deliver great outcomes and drive performance. For instance, Heathrow, you know, we've been working in partnership with Heathrow for the best part of 30 years now. And, you know, that's a really great example of, you know, us aligning our businesses and really looking at how we continue to add value. And we're now doing solutions for them, which are not about us giving teams of people anymore, but we're giving them amazing management information and we're being paid for that management information rather than the old model of, you know, of augmented teams. So that for us is the future about how we get more into, you know, being rewarded for that, for those outcomes and driving those outcomes and driving performance.
Well, relationships that last that long, Patricia, means you must be doing something right. So thank you so much for joining me today on the Infrastructure Podcast. A really interesting conversation and great insights into what the future of the sector is all about and, of course, what it means to be a trusted advisor. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Patricia.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Anthony. Best of luck with your podcast series.
Thanks very much, Patricia. That's all we've got time for today. We're going to have more, though, from the Infrastructure Podcast in the pipeline and more guests to talk to as we continue to probe the big issues facing the sector. If you haven't done so already, do check out the new Infrastructure Podcast website. That's www.infrastructure-podcast.com, where you'll find lots of background information and all the latest podcasts to listen to and, of course, to share. Thanks for joining us. Thanks again to Patricia, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.